Earlier this week in the major leagues, Fernando Tatis Jr., talented player, got all kinds of crap for hitting a home run, a grand slam home run. Why? Because by doing it, he broke one of baseball's unwritten rules. They're unwritten for a reason, but still people follow them. What are some unwritten rules that we absolutely hate? And which ones do we say, you know what, there's reason for those? Let's dive down that rabbit hole. When Fernando Tatis hit that home run, hit that grand slam, it was on a 3-0 pitch with a big lead in the game. The unwritten rules say you don't do that. It's a big lead. Let that pitch go in. Don't be teeing off on it. He hit a grand slam home run. How do you criticize the guy for that? Anyway, Bubba O'Neill, let's start with this one. What is one of sports' unwritten rules that you absolutely despise?
You know, it's funny because I feel like baseball might be the sport that we pick on the most because it's the most dumb, stupid. So I'll go with baseball. And this is from a broadcasting standpoint. Why is it that people like myself, television broadcasters, and people on the radio get blamed if a no-hitter is blown in the 8th, 7th, or even 9th inning if you say the word that particular pitcher is on possibly going to throw a no-hitter? Why is it if you can't say the word no-hitter if that particular pitcher is close to throwing a no-hitter? Like, as if he blows it, it's my fault. I don't get it.
Because you've passed the juju through the air, and he somehow now is out.
Of course, it comes from the earlier parts of the game from in the dugout, where if players mention it, maybe it gets in the pitcher's head, right? And all of a sudden he grooves one or he gets too nervous and all that kind of thing. And then there is some background. But when you're right, Bubba, when you're up in the broadcast booth and nobody can hear you, and especially in the day of metrics, when we're now trying to move towards this too much to metrics where numbers prove things, how are we letting voodoo in on this?
No, but you're right, though. But you're absolutely right. We've seen this before. There are broadcasters who will get besieged by emails or calls or letters if they say it and it goes away. People really do buy this somehow.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I'll go one step further. I mean, anyone who's broadcasted a hockey game, when there's a goalie with a shutout in the late stages of a third period, you're not supposed to say, wow, he's 3 minutes away from a shutout. Yeah. But I'll give you my, unwritten rule that I hate, and it goes along the lines of the no-hitter as well. Baseball's got a lot of these great, really bad unwritten rules, and that is you don't bunt. You don't bunt when a pitcher has a no-hitter. Well, why not? You can get on base. You can bunt. That is legal in baseball. Why can't you not bunt during a no-hitter? I just don't understand that one.
I think there should be sub-clauses in that rule in a way. Like if you're up or down X number of runs, I think there should be sub-clauses in that. But it's part of the game. Yeah. No, but I was actually going to look at that one, but sometimes I was going to look at that as a positive. But it would have to have sub-clauses.
How can there be sub-clauses in it?
I know. It's ridiculous. Maybe I spent too much time around the game.
We just a couple of days ago, like just yesterday, saw what could happen in one inning as a team scored 7 runs. So even if you're up 7-0, anything can happen in baseball if you just get a man on base.
Yeah, this week the Jays have come back from 7 down and 8 down, and so you're right. And like, how many times do we see a player bunt for a single and hustle down to first, and we hear the play-by-play guys again raving about his hustle and about his smarts and everything else? Well, if a bunt is a legitimate, intelligent play and you've got a no-hitter being pitched against you and you can't get the bat on this guy, why is it then not an intelligent hustle play to do that?
Well, that's the thing. It can break the guy's concentration. Oh no, and now next thing you know, he grooves one and tries to get it out. I was actually going to pick that one, but I didn't know which side to go on that one because I kind of like it and I kind of don't like it. But I'll switch over to I don't like – there's 2 things. I don't like this, and this isn't an unwritten rule, but it's pretty close. The beard growing in the you have to grow a beard in hockey in the playoffs. But I'm going to supersede that, and here's why. It doesn't work, right? So 16 teams, 15 teams, it doesn't work for. So, okay, so the numbers are like for 1 in 16. If it did work, the percentage is 6.5%. Same thing with stepping on the logo in a dressing room. Right? Because now you're looking at people whose job is not anything to do with the team. And the worst example I see of that, for some reason, for 3 or 4 years, maybe because the Leafs were playing them all the time, I found myself in the Ottawa Senators homeroom an awful lot. Regular sized room, not as big as some of them. And the logo on the rug is massive. Right. So in the playoffs, you got all these people in there covering the team. Now you're trying not to step on the logo, not because you believe in that crap, because you don't want to be centered out by these 25-year-old guys that are focused on the playoffs. So now you got everybody compressing to the outside. I thought somebody's going to step on a player who's sitting there and get hurt. Like it was the worst thing.
Steve, guys will fight you if you step on the logo. Guys will fight you if you step on the logo.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work.
About the beards, here's the other thing about the beards that I find so funny. And it's funny you bring this up because I thought this last night watching the game on TV. We live at a time right now when beards are incredibly fashionable, and most guys, most athletes are wearing them. Once upon a time, you grew a beard because nobody had one. Bill Flett was the only guy in the 70s who had a beard, so you did this because it was something new. Now, the thing should be, hey, we're going to shave our beards for the playoffs. If the whole idea is to do something that's a little different, it would be shaving your beard that would be the thing.
No, you're right.
All right, guys. If we're going to stay in hockey now, what is this nonsensical rule about you can't touch the trophy?
Hey, you're taking mine, Bubba. You're stealing mine. You're stealing mine.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Two things about that. But there's two applications for this unwritten rule. One is that you would never touch the conference championship trophy because somehow that's bad luck. And the other is that players who have not the Stanley Cup, if they're near it, will not touch it, won't go near it, won't take their picture with it, won't do anything. See, I like and it's not an unwritten rule. It's an unwritten rule, but it's a rule, which is that if you have not won the Stanley Cup, you can't lift it overhead. And Phil Pritchard, the guy with the white gloves, the keeper of the cup, I mean, he will enforce that one if you're at a party or something. Only the people who've won. I see that one I like about touching the cup, but the idea of, I can't touch the Eastern Conference Championship trophy because somehow now again screw up the juju if that's enough to mess you up and prevent you from winning again, you're a weak-minded athlete who never went far to begin with. So very, very stupid. Very stupid.
How many players play their whole career and don't even get to the final two, or get which is what happens when you win the conference championship? You're to the final two. There's an awful lot of players, and I'm not saying you should celebrate that type of thing. We should acknowledge it's a major thing to win the conference championship. That's 3 times as hard as it was to win the Stanley Cup in 1967.
Yes.
The answer, Steve, is anybody who plays their whole career with the Leafs.
Yeah, that's true. There you go.
Conference finals, what's that?
Yeah,
exactly.
I don't even know what the second round is anymore.
Nope.
Hey, by the way, just interested, when did we start calling this thing the round of 8? Everybody on broadcast is calling the round of 8. Do we go to soccer now?
Well, they're not stealing Elite 8 at least.
That's right.
Down that path.
Yes.
Let's go the opposite direction here. Opposite direction for something that we actually like. An unwritten rule that we think is a good unwritten rule. And I don't even know if mine is an unwritten rule as much as it just is a bit of logical sportsmanship. And that is, if you are way up, and in my mind, in baseball, 10 runs, in football, when you're way up, you don't keep running up the score. And, some people have an issue with that. We looked, as I say, we just saw the Jays come back from 7 and 8 down.
Yep.
As I say, I put the mark in baseball at 10. If you're up 10, then I might have said to Tatis, take that pitch. But it's like, and I've coached enough kids sports, especially, where that people don't seem to understand that. And you're sitting on the bench grinding your teeth because your team is down 13-0. And you're like, really? You've still got your number 1 power play unit on here? Yeah, there's a time and a place. My thing is when you get it so the game is completely out of hand, turn it down.
Well, that's a coaching thing. That's not a player thing.
Yes.
Well, it's both. It can be both.
I don't think it can be, because if you let up in most sports, like baseball, you can't. What are you supposed to do? Like swing and not hit the ball? I get it on the I get it on the 3-0 pitch. I sort of get it. But in football, you're supposed to just back off. You could get clobbered. I don't get. So I think that's when when you talked about not putting your power play out there, your top players, that kind of thing. I get that. Get some garbage time for a lot of players.
Oh, but you've seen it in football. You've seen in football that a quarterback will have various options on play. It doesn't happen often now, but you're up by 5 touchdowns late in the game. The right play is either take a knee or just hand the ball off, and you'll still see, because of a stat that someone wants to reach or something occasionally, or he wants to work on his game, that he'll throw a deep pass. That's the kind of stuff where you go, no. I understand stats. I understand payment, bonuses, and I understand working on everything. There's a time and a place.
I don't know, Scott.
I think it comes.
No.
No?
You stop me. And that's what the sports is all about. And yes, I believe there is an element of sportsmanship. And I have seen in many occasions, all of us here, and Scott, I got you with amateur sports and kid baseball and that kind of stuff. Maybe there's some merit to that. But in professional sports, stop me. What I would do, and what I suggest for coaches to do, is to start playing your second and third stringers. But the philosophy of, I'm going to talk about offense. The way you play offense, or your name Bill Walsh used to do this all the time, he would sub in different players, but you're still in attack mode. And that's just the way you got to play. I mean, there's no softies here. This is professional sports.
Well, hold on a sec. A few years ago, when the Patriots were, probably 5 years ago, I can't remember, when they started out, they won 8 or 9 of their first games in a row, and all of them were by like 40 points. They were just killing everybody, and I don't remember who they played. But near the end of a game, they were down near the goal line, and they were already up by 40-something points, and they decided to try and smash it in. And the other team went nuts. And I agreed with the other team at that point, because it was totally unnecessary, and the only reason you did it was to humiliate them. There was no.
What's the difference? What's the difference between losing 41-0 and 48-0? It's an L at the end of the day. What does it matter?
That's good.
I think it matters to the
unless
guys
you're betting on the game and you're looking at the point spread.
Well,
but I think it comes down to coaching as well. I agree with Steve. Like, the coaches have to realize that, okay, the game is in hand, whether it's football, baseball, whatever the case is. The game is in hand. Let's have our subs in. Let's have our third and fourth liners out there. Let's put in the backup or the third string quarterback. Bring your defense off the field and put your special teams guys on there. But at the end of the day, I mean, these guys, coaches and players, are getting paid to play. How can you ask them not to perform up to what you're paying them to do? I mean, at the end of the day, if it's 49-0, yeah, put in the subs. But if it's third and goal from the 1 and there's 10 seconds to go, punch it in if you want.
Well, and while we're on pay, which is money, somebody's paying for these players. And why are they doing that? Because we're watching it on TV or we're watching it at the game, right? So am I complicit in this as a fan? I'm paying that. Do I want to see this? Do I necessarily care about the players' feelings in that way? Maybe we should, but really, this is an entertainment business, right? So what, do you just pay for 55 minutes of everybody trying hard? That's
all right.
That's
all
one
right.
One argument.
I'm working with 3 cold-hearted, feelingless jerks, is what I'm saying here, clearly.
Well, don't forget, yeah. I mean, it is the entertainment business, and it is. Sometimes it's an instructional business as well. And I think I get the moral part of what you're saying, Scott. And the thing the rule that I'm going to choose has a moral issue to it. And that is kicking the ball out of bounds in soccer when a player's been hurt. They do it in 2 ways. The player goes down and there's no whistle, then the team with the ball whose player isn't down will kick it out. So that means the other team gets it back. But they'll also, if there is a whistle and the player's down, you'll often see the team that has the ball, if it's not the one, they'll kick it out to give the other team a chance. Now, with all the diving, when I say
it becomes harder.
Yeah, that's harder, and you don't see as much diving in the MLS and in the North American game, either the MLS or the CPL. It's very much almost written into the rules there. You see very little of it compared to particularly South America, but a lot of Europe too. And I think that's instructional for people. I think
they do something
what
else.
You're saying is fair play.
Yeah, Steve, they do something else that I love in soccer that you don't see it all the time. You see it very occasionally, but when it does happen, I love it. And that is, if there is a truly egregiously bad call that leads to either a goal or a penalty, once in a while you'll see the other team, and usually not in the Premier League or the highest levels, but you'll see someone basically even it up and give the other team a goal almost. which, you know, I've seen it happen a few times. And, you know, there is something about self-policing the game. Again, you get into the really dicey part of the unwritten rules.
You're getting less and less of that in soccer now. It's becoming
yeah.
more intense.
Rick, what do you say? What's your unwritten rule you would keep?
This would apply for professional and amateur hacks like ourselves. On the golfing green, do not walk across a putting line from that your opponent is looking at. I've seen this from time to time. Never have seen it on the pro game, whether it's the LPGA or the PGA, but you know, the weekend duffers who go out and find more often than not their ball land in the sand when they eventually get on the green and lining up their putt just beforehand, you know, your opponent will walk in front of your line. Now, at the end of the day, it probably does not amount to a hill of beans. There's no visual distraction anymore. There's no, you know, impediment on the green. Your spikes aren't going to create a cavernous surface. But it's the etiquette of the game, and I like that part of golf.
I think golf is a gentleman's game, and I think that one's okay. I think it's just a show of respect, and there is so much concentration when you're trying to line up a putt, which may really mean a tremendous amount. So playing mental games with your opposite, your competitor, which you've probably walked 18 holes with anyway, I just don't think that's a good way to go about your business.
Yeah, the funniest one with that in golf that I've always thought was silly was the idea that you can't cast a shadow over his ball. Now that one always seemed to me a little bit like, come on, it's a shadow, deal with it. But, you know, I get it. Bubba, what do you say? Your unwritten rule that you would cling to it because it's good.
You know what? I'm kind of mixed on this one, guys. So it'll be interesting to hear what you guys have to say in this one too, because I do feel both sides of this, and this happens in hockey. And part of me says, if I'm in competition, heated battle, 7-game series, for the most part, I hate you. I despise you. I don't like your team. So why do I have to shake your hand at the end of the series? Like, and that's why I always admired Chris Chelios, because you know what? He just skated off the ice. I hated you. I don't like you. And now I'm supposed to, like, good series, good luck, win the cup. Nah, I don't know about that.
That's exactly why soccer does it the other way. You walk out with the other team, essentially, right? You very rarely at the end, sometimes after the big games, of course, because a lot of these guys you play national teams with each other, that kind of thing. And that's the other part about that, Bubba, is that in most sports now at a higher level, you are sometimes teammates with the people you're playing against, say in your club team, or you're a club player that's a teammate with somebody you're going against in an international game. So there's part of that, but that's why soccer does that. They have the people come out and they hold the hands of the kids that are playing, and they're about 2 feet from each other. So that's why they do it that way.
I understand what you're saying, Bubs, but I love the handshake, especially after a fierce series. You know, we've seen the Sean Avery and Martin Brodeur fiascos, you know, the two captains shaking hands, the coaches, whatever, you know, the two goalies. I think it just adds to the drama of the moment. I think, you know, at the end of especially a 7-game hard-fought, slobber knocker, whether it's the Stanley Cup final or the first round, I think that show of respect goes a long way. And I think the kids that are watching that should be thinking, hey, you know, these two teams went at it for 7 games. Now they're congratulating each other, and you know, the best one's moving on.
Yeah, but I hate you. I
That's okay. The horn's gone.
I hate you. I hate you. And now that you beat me, I don't want to deal with you. Go win the cup, and I'm done with you.
That's true from some people, and that's why I like the odd guy doing it that way, the way that you're saying it, Bubba. Yeah. And I also like what Rick does. So I like that kind of mix. But don't confuse being a fan and the hatred. Like, you don't get a chance to let it out as a fan, or even as a broadcaster or a writer. We don't get a chance to let out those emotions on the field. Those people are drained of those hatred emotions if they felt them in the first place, right? So now it's a relief. It's over. But fans they still have that hatred, right?
But do you feel the same way? Bubba, do you feel the same way about two fighters in a boxing match or a UFC match after they're done hugging each other? Because you see that all the time. They've just beaten each other in the face until they're a bloody pulp, and now they're best friends.
Well, no, I'm okay with the competition in that sense, but I mean, you could have a lot in the pre-fight buildup where you totally disrespected me, and then all of a sudden I'm supposed to shake your hands and we're okay with this. Then I think it gets into some kind of fake zone. Guys, I must be a real idiot. Like, I really, like, what's wrong with me? But that's just kind of the way I feel. I mean, because to me, the best part of sports is rivalry. And the fact that you don't like me, I don't like you, And yeah, we go to battle, but you know what? Until the next time we see each other, well, I still don't like you, right? Win or lose. So,
I do notice, Bubba, that at the end of CHCH's evening news, you and Taz and you and Phil Perkins never shake hands. I don't know if that's sort of down the same line here or what's going on there, but there's no handshake line at the end. And Rick, you pointed out another one, and we could do this all day. You mentioned Steve Avery and Martin Brodeur. We're talking about unwritten rules, and that thing that happened, turned and faced the goalie, unwritten rule. I loved that. I thought that was brilliant. He just figured out a new way to drive the goalie nuts. If you're willing to stand there and have your back to the slap shot and have a puck go up your pooper for the sake of scoring a goal, I'm all for it. Knock yourself out. I don't know why he got so ripped for that one. What do you think? What would be an unwritten rule or rules that you love, that you think are important for the integrity and the honor of the game? And what are some unwritten rules that you say these are the stupidest things ever? I don't know why they have them. They ruin the game. We would love to hear from you. Send your comments. Send them to the Twitter handles are on the screen. They'll also come up at the end. You can comment there. You can reach out to us. We would love to hear from you. Also, subscribe down below so you'll get these videos every time they come out, because they come out often. We will talk to you soon.